Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Verona Township Council for June 26, 2023. Madam Clerk, would you please read our Open Public Meetings Act compliance statement?
Notice requirement of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with this meeting of the Township Council. Meeting time and date were included in the public meeting notice along with the internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice and meeting agenda was posted in the municipal building and sent to the official newspapers of the Township, the Verona City Times, and the Star Ledger at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and public handouts can be viewed online at veronanj.org/council meetings. Public comment period will be held in the orders listed on the meeting agenda, and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Holland. Here. Councilman Tamboro.
Here.
Councilwoman McAvoy.
Here.
Deputy Mayor McGrath. Here. Mayor Roman.
Here.
Mayor also in the meeting tonight is Township Attorney Joe DiArco, Township Manager Joe DiArco, Township Attorney Brian Lawyer, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Cannon.
Please rise and join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start off this evening by welcoming Mr. Coltrane.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hopefully we're all dry and we stay dry. We'll start with our mobile health unit, which we are still giving out booster shots and other vaccinations. On Tuesday, June 27th, they'll be at Wassessing Park from 2 to 6. They'll be at the Robert O'Toole Center just down the road on Fairview Avenue, 199, on Thursday from 1 to 5. They'll be at the Hall of Records on June 30th in the Veterans Building. And they will also be at Pride Family Night at the Turtleback Zoo. And that is from 6 to 9 p.m. You can also make an appointment at 973-877-8456. And it's EssexCountyNJVaccination.org. And you can go online and see those, make your appointments. We have a big week coming up with fireworks. Wednesday, June 28th at Weequahic Park. It starts when it gets dark. And we have July 3rd, which is Monday at Brookdale Park. And we have Friday, June 30th at Branchbrook Park with the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra. And hopefully you received this brochure in the mail, and it has chock full of other things happening around the county. It also has live local concerts. Last week, Neil Diamond and friends were at Verona Park. Hopefully you attended, and apparently went pretty well from my hearsay. The other thing I was informed about was, and I have to get my phone out because it's the last minute, while I'm picking things up, we do have the mayor's call tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. We can you can be informed on other things happening in the county. The last thing I have is the wellness on the waterfront. It's at our pavilion at Essex County South Mountain Recreation Complex on Mondays, and there's an array of dates, and I'll just say check the park website. I'll have a pamphlet next meeting. And Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the fun night is movie night, which is, let's see, on Wednesday, movies under the stars, and they'll have a great time. Check our website, check the park website. The reason I'm not going through the dates is there's in July, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's about 20 different dates 4 different days of the week. So check our website and we'll try to get you another one of these pamphlets. I received this late this evening, so it's a good time to be out and about having a good time. Any questions, comments?
Any questions, council?
I did attend Neil Diamond and Friends in the park, and it really was great. The crowd was great and the setup. I for various reasons had always missed the Essex County concert in Verona Park. It was great to see and how it was set up, and everyone was having a great time.
Right. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Very much.
Thank you.
Just a couple of brief comments this evening. First off, we were all able to attend the high school graduation. Councilman Dr. Tamburo was able to wear a fancier outfit than the rest of us were, but it was a wonderful ceremony. Just wanted to say congratulations to all of the graduates and their families, as well as all of the faculty and administrators, Board of Education, everybody else that works with the school district for completion of a successful school year. Wish all of our graduates the best of luck going forward. Other big news, Mr. Neal, we are going to be wishing him a fond farewell in the very near future here. I just want to congratulate him. He is moving up to a big step forward, becoming a borough administrator. One of the challenges you always have in an organization where you have very good people is that they have a lot of opportunities. And I'm always happy to see people take these opportunities. Mr. Neal has been just an integral part of our community for a very long time. He's done pretty much everything and anything in this township in every department that we have here. A number of years ago, we were realizing that we kept hearing the same thing about opening businesses in Verona, that it was more challenging than one would hope, and that it took a little longer, and we wanted to fix it. So we did something that you don't see a whole lot of the time in a town of this size, which we launched an economic development initiative. And we said, we're going to put our smartest guy on it. Mr. Neal stepped up to the plate, and in his words, he walked up and down Bloomfield Avenue, handing out his business cards to every business that was there. And we just got really aggressive at making sure that we got businesses opened up as quickly as possible, that we marketed Verona, that we took good care of them. And then COVID happened. And COVID obviously was a giant challenge to businesses everywhere. And in Verona, we were very lucky in that we were able to retain a lot of our businesses. And Mr. Neal again had some just wonderful initiatives of communication with the businesses and with the public to encourage patronizing them, which I think was very smart and helped us retain a lot of this environment. And he's just done everything and anything else in this town with communications. We've put him into a larger management role in the last couple of years. This is just a very well-deserved step forward for him. I think that he's going to excel. And I just want to say thank you for all of your service to the community, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And then this evening is my final evening as mayor, the final meeting that I'm going to preside over. At least the final evening will be a couple of days from now. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone in the community, my colleagues up here on the council, all of the professionals that we work with, all of the staff of Verona Township. I've said it over and over that this has just been the biggest honor of my life to be entrusted with this role in this community. I never really sought out to get into politics or a position of being a public official. I've always kind of just viewed myself as a guy who lives in town that wants to help out. And to be able to serve in this role has been incredibly meaningful to me. I'm appreciative mostly of what we've been able to accomplish over the last couple of years. I've never wanted to be the main character. I've always kind of viewed my role as being building the environment where other people can excel and succeed. And you look, and we're solving so many issues that have been long-running issues in this community with utilities and infrastructure, with stormwater, with our emergency services facilities, improving resident services, going through our affordable housing case, managing our ever-increasing population, and just how successful we've been as a community. And it's just a testament to everyone else here, basically. That's really the way that I look at it. We just have fantastic people working here in Verona. And it's been a privilege to watch all of this and to contribute in whatever part that I can to this community. I'm very glad to still be able to be up here in whatever role I play. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody, that I just don't go a day without being very thankful for the opportunities that I've been given. And it's my honor to serve and to continue to serve and to work with everybody else up here in the dais for several more years. So thank you to everyone for that. And with that, I just have a couple of appointments that I'll make this evening to the Environmental Commission, which is going to be Jessica Pearson as chair for term expiring 6/30/2024. Sarah Yalco Farrell, member, term expiring 6/30/2026. Terry Boris, member, 6/30/2026. Walter Steinman, member, term expiring 6/30/2026. And Erdal Trinasioglu as alternate number 1, expiring 6/30/2025. Do I just need to note those appointments or do I need to take any action?
I have a typo on the agenda, I'm sorry. The alternate number 2,
Okay,
re-upping his position.
so
Sorry.
alternate number 2. And as all,
They're just your appointments now, so just the
Okay.
public now knows of them, so.
okay. And as always, I am very grateful to everyone for being willing to serve. And with that, I will pass it over to the township manager.
Before I get into my agenda report, there's appointments, which I want to thank the clerk for outlining those appointments that the township manager is responsible for. And I appreciate her assistance in those appointments. The Historic and Preservation Committee, would you like me to read the names into the record? Or I can have clerk.
Whichever, if you prefer, or if whether or not it's necessary.
I don't think it's necessary to read these names, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
We can mention them that the new coordinator from the
Yes.
and
And then we have the Municipal Alliance Commission member, coordinator, and the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Advisory Committee, 2 members with expirations in 2025.
If I may just, clarifying point, so, the municipal coordinators and Jocelyn, so she's, she's a new coordinator.
Yes,
That's being, because the previous
she
coordinator.
was the previous coordinator.
and you may, Ms. Jocelyn served previously for years as coordinator as well.
Correct. Thank you.
My agenda has not changed a lot, given that this is the official last meeting of this governing body before we transition into the new governing body. And most of your major projects are in motion. The largest project meeting was with the architects solutions for the public safety complex, 3 teams, the team of fire department, number 2, rescue squad, and the police headquarters have their first joint meeting with the architect to flesh out the conceptual plan on the property project. There will be a number of meetings that will occur probably every 3 weeks until we get it completely fleshed out. And then there'll be a presentation to the mayor and council, and which will be public. So unless there's any questions on items 1 through 22,
Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question with regard to item number 9, the recreation report. It's identified as impending. So it was brought to my attention. It was vetted at a recent recreation advisory. In fact, have an ordinance that governs the usage of fields, mandatory training. And it was, one of the important I'm on the council, whether it be and some residents had brought attention concern that there wasn't full
touch on that. I did assign that to Steve and the chief and the borough attorney collectively for reviewing that. It was set aside during COVID. I think unbeknownst to most of the administration, and the directive was to get that put back in place. Steve has worked on that. Chief and Township.
Yes, we had a couple meetings internally. We met with Brian also on it. So there is going to be this kind of a good time, kind of laid out a new process where everything will be implemented again fully. We have our system, so it's going to be a mix of, we have an online system that we've been using, but we kind of have talked about a new process, a little more detailed process with the police department too. So we just have to lay that out and actually formalize the policy. But for the fall sports, those seasons, I think especially basketball is kind of the next big one with a lot of coaches. Every single person will be background checked
Okay,
and notified ahead of time accordingly.
so during the recreation advisory. Identified that the background checks hadn't been done. And one of the comments was that there wasn't sufficient budget for the. And it does require that the township run the. If there are budgetary concerns. Checks for recreation programs most certainly do. And so I don't know if you could speak to that further, but that was definitely one of the points.
Yeah, I think just there may not have been all the information provided during that meeting on the budget process, but there is money in the budget for it. We do run them. We did switch the lines during this year's budget into administration. So they were kind of broken out between the different departments and getting pulled from those lines. So it's where some of the miscommunication might have occurred. But yeah, there may be a time in the future, we have to see how it goes with a new implementation, where fees might need to be discussed and how they get covered, who's paying. But that has not been decided.
Yeah, I know that for some of the outside sporting, volunteers pay for their own. Background check.
That obviously will be moved out to my.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Do appreciate it, and I look. Analysis.
That will, we did we put on an individual doing that study for us.
Do we have anything else on this topic or different topics?
I just want to make a quick point on 17 Township Planner. And I just want to thank you for trying to organize us to pick a planner. It's really important. I know I responded back in April. I'm really glad that, we're kind of pushing so that we can clarify which planners we want to bring in. It's so critical as we talk about the budget being so tight for revenue generation and getting our downtown really moving again and flourishing, that we hire that planner and so that we can move forward. So really excited to get that meeting on the schedule, hopefully for some point in July or August. Thank you.
And that was a directive of the council to get this moving, to get a special meeting, and my appreciation to the clerk for hounding.
All of us.
Yes.
We all live.
It's that is yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Except for me. Since I responded.
I responded.
Councilman Verona.
Joe, I was wondering if you could fill the public and the council, I suppose, at the same time on your timeline for the replacement of Mr. Neal's position, who will be taking care of projects in the interim, who people should contact, obviously your office, but Steve has done a lot and puts in more than 40 hours a week. So just trying to see where all that's going to go. And obviously if we approve the ordinance tonight, we'll see a title change, we could advertise. But if you could fill that in and probably bring anybody in the interim, is there, you can answer all that.
Yeah. Thank you. I should preface the appreciation for Steve and the work he's done in the short time I've been here, not only a right hand, but a left hand, and in challenging his abilities, a lot was shifted to him. So the short answer is a lot of shifting back into my office. We do have our public information employee that's been put in place, which that lion's share of public information, et cetera, will be transferring to our new public information officer, which is a plus. I am already starting to divide it. There's a number that I will keep in my office as manager, as the professional firms are moving most of the projects on deck. I think it's really still imperative that we put on a deputy manager. I've removed from the salary ordinance discussing with Brian taking out the salary piece, because it will be based on the qualifications and level of the candidate in here, so prior comments that may have been published may not be accurate at this point. The ordinance I feel is essential. That we do need to put a second in command in the organizational structure. So it is firm for you, and I will be meeting with staff. I will be going back to CDBG along with Chuck, and some of the assignments are still being. Sir, on the pieces that are going in there and the difficulties in that living within zoning, and I can always briefly also session on that. But Philip Epps is doing real well in restructuring. Construction office and efficient. So very honestly, most of the projects, some of the way that we put back in my office until I reassign staff to certain projects, but your teams are pretty solid. The Wednesday meeting, the township attorney, the township clerk, and myself, and I bring team members in as we need to address certain projects. We're not going to, we won't fall apart.
So do you anticipate posting soon and trying to
Yes.
have somebody by August? Is that a reasonable timeline, August, September?
August, September, we'll be advertising, as soon as the ordinance is done, we'll be advertising for the deputy manager position, the job descriptions are done, we put all that in place already, and I do recommend we continue to test.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Do you have any other updates or?
No, Mayor, thank you, and then we have Steve, so.
All right, good evening. Pretty much didn't submit a formal report for this meeting, but it's kind of the running list. Obviously, we have our wrap-up meeting this week, Joe and I, so we'll be shifting everything around accordingly. So I will just touch on a couple things. Pearl, obviously, there's been a lot of action on site. You'll notice they've been moving very quickly along up there with some of the site work. And we are anticipating a closing fairly soon. So I would say more to come on that very soon. Pool construction, we're gonna have a wrap-up meeting, closeout meeting this week with the superintendent of buildings and grounds and the contractor. So we'll see how that goes. Don't anticipate any other issues. They completed their punch list items. We're just waiting on a couple manuals from them for some of the equipment. But other than that, they are done.
Sorry, if I may, does buildings and grounds maintain that, or does DPW maintain like the splashback going forward?
That's buildings and grounds. That'll be under that. They all help if needed, but for the most part, that's under it. Yeah. Road reconstruction projects, pretty much done. We're just, again, still waiting on the trees for the Ann and Cypress project. Otherwise, everything else with that project is done. We are working with the Shade Tree Commission to try and figure out some watering issues for the summer to hopefully maintain and take care of those trees.
Excuse
Who's got
me, just on that, because I just came from the Shade Tree Commission meeting. So yes, they are very concerned that if we do plantings this summer and about it being adequately watered, and hope that the administration can figure out a way to have staff water. They likened it to, we are so great with watering the plants on Bloomfield Avenue for that 3-month period of time, but to get these trees rooted right, this is a 30-year investment. And so if we have to rejigger a few resources to be creative in thinking of that. So, because we don't want these trees to die. If it turns out they do get planted this summer, which is not ideal. But they recognize that the administration wants to close out the contract, but it does seem like there's some sourcing issues anyway.
Yeah, I think they have located the trees, and I think they have been ordered. So I think we're just waiting. It should be any day before they actually get it.
Okay, thank you.
There has been, if I may,
Please go ahead.
there has been discussions on bagging the trees,
Yes.
and we'll integrate the watering process with that.
Yes, I think it's that second piece as well. Thanks.
Yeah, And I feel confident we'll come up with a solution soon. Skipping ahead, I'll touch on the rec field utilization study. Surveys have gone out, so our consultant has been working on that. I think she's just waiting back for a couple surveys to be returned from some of the organizations. There was a little hesitation, and some of the organizations were busy with sports right now, obviously, so we expect some of that to come in the next month or so, and have a little bit more data on the usage and some of the gaps. Friends of Verona Park. So I do want to comment on that one. Obviously, as transitioning out, everything is under my name for that. I will still be a resident here, and I plan to see that through the creation of the 501c3 with the other board members that were asked to come on. So that will still continue. At some point, obviously, I will step away from being the president of it. But we do have two residents so far who are very interested in keeping that going, so that we'll maintain and stay on track.
If I can just add something quick on that. I think a lot of residents could be very interested in that. At some point, if there are more slots on the board, it gets very fully advertised as an opportunity. I know we're struggling for volunteers across the board, but I could imagine if it's appropriately explained, residents would be very excited to join this new 501c3.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of interest, and definitely publicize it a lot. We are keeping it very small and compact right now, just to get through some of the paperwork and administrative tasks. I'll skip down. Our public information officer started last week. She's dove right in. So we've been training hard every day, kind of going through all the systems and everything. She now is doing the posts. So if you see social media posts going out, that is our new employee. Her office is located right here in Brian's old office at one point, but the prosecutor's old office in the corner there. Made a nice little office space for her. So if you're ever in and want to pop over, her door's usually open. She'd welcome it. And I think a lot of you had the chance to meet her at one of our recent events. Colliers, the engineering, the ERP, the RRA, that was submitted and certified with the EPA. So we are in compliance. I was just waiting on the final drafts for that. So I will send that to you and add that to your folders. That is completed. The RRA is fully completed. The ERP is still being worked on. And if anyone has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, that will conclude my report. If I could just say a few words, Mayor. I just want to say I've been here for a very long time in Verona, working and living. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure. I've had the good opportunity to work with a few different managers at this point. So I thank Mr. Diarco and the managers that came before me, all the council members. It's been a long time, 16 years full-time. My first job ever. I was 13 years old, probably working illegally at the Verona pool. And shoveling snow in the winter. So I've been on the books for about 26 years actually in town. So it's been a pleasure. It's going to be a big change, but
32.
I think it's this step in the right direction for myself and my family. And I look forward to seeing all of you just walking around now as a resident in town. So I promise I won't bother you too much. So thank you all.
As I said when we were talking, I mean, you have this just incredible spirit of public service and of just making your community a better place. Your new employer really lucked out. Please don't forget about us. You can call into the meetings if you like. Is we know we'll see you around, but just thank you again for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilman Deputy.
Great, thank you. I want to join the mayor in congratulating all the graduates of Verona High School. It was a wonderful ceremony, and as a fellow high school parent myself, it's a pleasure. I'm starting to recognize the kids who are graduating, and it's wonderful them grow up and see what they will become. I want to thank all of our residents who came to our annual Juneteenth flag raising. It was actually a really fantastic event. I think it was our best one yet. Thank you to Steve Neal for planning the event, and the NAACP for once again attending. But it was really fantastic and helped us focus on our history of our nation. I want to congratulate Verona resident Aiden Hanlon for his Eagle Scout project behind FM Brown, which was fabulous. I want to thank Mayor Alex Roman for serving as mayor for the last 2 years. I think the high point for the last 2 years as a council was our selection process for our new township manager, Mr. Giarco. It was a really amazing moment of teamwork amongst all 5 of us. And my personal favorite moment was when we called to give Mr. Giarco the offer, which was really great. And that was a fun moment for us. So thank you, Mayor Roman. On the mayor selection process, I want to thank a lot of residents who have been reaching out to us recently and are very engaged this year in the process. Leadership comes in many different forms, and residents are speaking up about what's important to them and our community. I think it's really important for us on the council to all engage with each other, and all members of the council should be engaged. I think there's still plenty of time for us to come to a decision that works for all 5 members of this governing body. So I look forward to any future conversations on that. And I too want to end by congratulating Steve Neal. This is really hard that you're leaving our municipality, but I am so proud of you that you got such a great opportunity to advance your career. It's been a pleasure working with you. We really, I think you did so many amazing things in this township, and just from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I'm definitely going to miss seeing you here. And I look forward to seeing you though at the pool, enjoying that new splash pad with your children. So thank you.
And
That's my report.
thank you. And I have to take a moment to return the kind compliments, to also thank our deputy mayor for serving for the amount of time that she's been able to put in, the energy. There are so many things I wish I could make it to, everything in the universe. I have not always been able to. She's done just such wonderful work in representing this community at county and state events, public events, and just being an active participant in all of our debates up here. Her energy is boundless. So I just want to say thank you for all of your work over the last 2 years and the rest of your term. So
Thank you.
thank you very much. And then we'll go to Councilman Mackley.
Much of mine is going to be the same. I want to start by letting the public know, because no one brought it up yet, but we do have fireworks this Friday at sundown. So it's always a fun time up there on the field. Make sure you look at the website and bring the proper chair to sit on the AstroTurf, so we don't have to kick you out and or have you leave your chair as well. Again, I would also like to congratulate the Verona High School graduates, the graduation, the speeches from the young adults in our town that graduated were just tremendous. I sit there and I really gives me the reality of how old I'm getting when I see or hear certain names called, and I just look up and can't believe that little kid that I saw some 15, 16, 17 years ago is graduating high school. So congratulations to all of them. The Juneteenth celebration ceremony was just fantastic. I'd like to thank Steve Neal for setting that up. Well done. And thank you to Darryl Jeffries, the president of the Oranges and Maplewood NAACP. He brought with him the vice president, Daniel Thomas, resident of Verona, Bill Brown, our former planning board chair, and Ambassador Cheryl Murphy. They did a wonderful job, and it's always great to see them. He's been doing this for 3 or 4 years now since we started. He's attended our ceremony. Again, same as deputy mayor, I'm in the same order. Eagle Scout Aiden Hanlon for the building of the footbridge behind FM Brown as his scout project. I know that they've worked closely with the Environmental Commission. There's 2 Eagle Scouts on there, Sean DeBartolo and oh, he's gonna kill me, Mike Altieri. So they worked with them and got this going. So congratulations to him for that accomplishment. I want to let everybody know that the Chamber of Commerce has now scheduled Thursday morning every other week at 8:30. We do have a meeting in the Annex building. So I welcome any business owner in town that would like to join us, 8:30 Thursday mornings. It's hopefully before work, you can pop in or just let us know. You can come for 5 minutes and introduce yourself. So lastly, I would like to speak to Steve Neal and congratulate him for his new position. You will be missed, as I spoke to you the other day. I wish you well. You deserve it. Talking about the Chamber of Commerce, we got that going 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6, and he was very supportive, very helpful in organizing and helping out with that, getting names of businesses. So thank you for all your hard work and all you've done for the Township of Verona. You will be missed. And congratulations to our mayor and deputy mayor for the last 2 years and all the work that you've done with us together, helping Verona. You've done a fantastic job leading us. And I look forward to no change in this council because we have a lot of projects going, and I think it's going to be helpful that we remain together and work together moving forward. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Campbell.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to attend my 15th graduation ceremony at Verona High School. And Mr. Mayor, I could get you a fancy uniform if you would like as well. My students call it my costume, but it's academic regalia.
At least just the hat.
The hat does make it. I must say, I debate every year wearing it, but the Dr. Meyer wears hers, so I absolutely wear mine. I want to congratulate Nadine Sharabi, Nicholas Canal, and Olivia Egan, all of whom I taught and adored, for giving phenomenal speeches that very much fit their personalities, and it was spot on for all of them. It was really a wonderful ceremony. I also was able to attend the Eagle Scout ceremony, or the Eagle Scout project presentation for Aiden Hamlin, and it was wonderful to see it was great that talking to Dr. Lanzo, that the students at FN Brown would be using that, which is great. And of course, the conversation led to other things that we could do in that area. So there's some conversations about getting high school involved, National Honor Society, and rehabbing some things down there. So I look forward to getting that in. I am pleased that the state legislature and Governor Murphy came to an agreement on Stay MJ policy, which is phenomenal, to give tax rebates to credits to our seniors, and I'm pleased that they worked together to get that done. I had asked for resolution, and I thank Mr. Wire for preparing it. It was a beautiful resolution, Brian, that we never got to use, but it'll go down in the memory book. We can sign it all later. But it was really good to see, and I think that our seniors, one of the things that I hear talking to a lot of people in town is, once I'm a senior here and I don't have kids in the school district and things like that, the value from the taxes isn't as much. This can help on that. I was not able to attend the Juneteenth ceremony because it happened during the workday. So I do ask perhaps the committee, and I can reach out to the chair directly to consider having some of these ceremonies at times that are more accessible for people to work. We do have several, and things are not holidays necessarily for everybody. So it might be something to think about to get more attendance. And Mr. Neal, thank you for everything. I first kind of really ran into Steve in his role. I don't know if it was you were in rec then at that point, but I know he helped me with the ropes course inside the gym. And I remember Steve coming from town hall to like fly around on ropes in the gym with my students. I still have pictures of that day. Kids had a great time. It was a great teamwork activity. And that was the moment that I recognized, Steve, how much of a utility player you've always been for this town. And I was very impressed then, and I continue to be impressed. And I thank you for all of the work you've done. The town invested a lot in you as well, and it paid dividends. It was probably one of our best investments we've ever made. So I think Bergen County is lucky to have you, and perhaps one day we can steal you back. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thanks. I won't burden the record by repeating everything, but I also attended the Juneteenth event. I thought it was a great turnout. I also attended the Eagle Scout project, and I'm really presentation. I'm really grateful for the work that was put into it. And of course, graduation was a tremendously emotional and really lovely event. And it's really nice to be invited to that as a councilwoman. I think the last graduation that I attended was my younger brother's, and I wasn't able to come to this graduation last year because he was getting married, and I couldn't help but think about all the amazing things that our young graduates would soon be doing with their lives. And it was really nice. I'm glad that the weather held out. But that's not so much today. So I do want to remind residents that June, and I did say this at the last meeting, but you may not have heard me because my voice was so raspy. But June is the beginning of hurricane season, and we had an incredibly dry spring. But we're getting a lot of intense thunderstorms this week, and the forecast just keeps showing more and more. Ask residents to be prepared at home, make that you're doing what you can to protect your family and your property. And if you see any, township facilities that need attention, please bring those to the township manager and the administration's so that they can be addressed. But I do want to compliment the administration for in advance of some of the rain that we're getting now. And I've had residents reach out saying that they had never seen that done before, and that they are so overwhelmingly happy because storm drains that had been backing up are no longer backing up. I even got photographs from residents expressing their elation at storm drain maintenance. And again, it's a necessary item of compliance. It's not always the prettiest, but at the same time, it's a necessary aspect of what we do. And I'm tremendously proud of the work that we've put into compliance with our stormwater, with our wastewater facilities over the last 2 years. So again, June, hurricane, be prepared. It's summer, we get intense storms. I also just want to note that I recently attended a recreation advisory meeting, and various topics were discussed, including disability programming. This is an intersection with our accessibility and multicultural, inclusive and accessibility committee. But there was a robust discussion about the potential for Special Olympics. I thought that was a wonderful contribution of many of our committee members. They were very passionate in this discussion about Special Olympics. And it was discussed that this would be brought up to the multicultural accessibility committee as well. If we could find a way of including that, I think that would be lovely. That was definitely about capital projects, definitely an ongoing in our recreation facilities. So as we establish those should, I hope that those are not lost. Discussion of our summer concert series, which as much as I wasn't able to attend the Essex County event, I do hope to attend some. And discussion about the summer playground program, which is our summer or recreation summer camp. And I know that started today. And there was discussion about potentially field trips. So I hope that. And I really hope to hear from parents. Like if you're really happy with these programs, please let us know. If there are concerns, also bring those. We are here for you. And last but not least, I want to recognize Mr. Neal for your contributions, and we're sorry to see you go, but we've arranged fireworks on your way out, so I hope that you attend. And it's just a small token of what we can do for you. I mean, I didn't personally arrange the fireworks, but hopefully it doesn't rain out. I'm looking at the forecast, it's kind of anyway, good luck to you. I'm so happy for you, and we're glad that you remain a resident and a taxpayer of the Township of Verona, and hopefully a pool member utilizing the pool. Anyway, good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to ordinances on second reading, which we have three this evening.
You want to have a comment session?
Sure, why don't we do that? So we'll do this for just general public comments. Something, thank you for reminding me. We've this is not officially on our order of business, but if we don't want to sit through all of the business in the meeting and want to make a public comment on any item, Madam Clerk, if you have a general public comment statement, that would be.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any matter If you're attending by Zoom, please raise your virtual hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. If you're dialing in by phone, press *9. If you're with us in person, you may approach the lectern. Once recognized, clearly state only your name and township of record. You are not required to provide an address. However, if you do, please note that these meetings will be active for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council. After everyone wishing to speak, council may address your comments and or questions.
And please feel free to come up to the lectern if you're in the room, or raise your hand if you're on Zoom. Please. And just your name and your town of residence only.
Yes. Larry Iannuzzi, Verona, New Jersey. Good evening, Deputy Mayor McGrath, Councilwoman Holland, Mayor Roman, Councilman McAvoy, and Tamboro. I'm addressing my thoughts tonight in particular to the 3 male councilmen, which by most accounts, aka rumor, has decided with no substantiated grounds to anoint Chris Tamboro to the unearned mayoralty on July 1st. It's a shame for this male bonding to have been formed despite the very conclusive and overwhelming support given to Councilwoman and Deputy Mayor Christine McGrath's victories in the last 2 council elections. Our current deputy mayor was the top vote getter in 2019, beating out an incumbent. And in 2023, she was reelected by a very overwhelming majority of Verona residents. Christine consistently allied voter support for the ailing financial campaign of Alex Roman. In a recent Globe article, Mayor Roman states, there is no hard and fast rule to appoint the highest vote getter to become the next mayor. Correct. There may not be a rule, but there should be common sense and an application of credibility that needs to be applied to the candidate in the process. Christine McGrath has exemplified the fine leadership and deserves to be mayor. Maybe this council should look at passing an amendment, an ordinance to appoint the highest vote getter to be the next future mayor for consideration going forward. It would be an embarrassment if this male-dominant council decides against this woman as mayor. Verona has enough bad history with prejudice against women in power and authority. Christine has gained the support of Congressman David Payne, Donald Payne, and New Jersey Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. Congresswoman Sherrill has pointed out positively about Christine's delivery of township transparency and accountability, as well as Christine's efforts on behalf of local food insecurity and in Verona and Essex County. Christine has spoken out clearly and unapologetically about gun violence and has shown a tireless dedication to the community of Verona, as has already been mentioned. On that note, let me state my credentials. I have lived in Verona for over 40 years. I've been appointed by 12 former mayors and councils as chairperson and co-chair of both Verona Cares and Verona's Municipal Alliance Committee, twice president of the Verona JCs, past member of the Verona Lions Club, former volunteer at VTV as videographer for the township's school concerts under the leadership of Jim Thomas. I've coached softball, basketball, and baseball for every bit of 30 years. My philosophy, and that of the JCs, which I was a member of, is service to humanity is the best work of life. And it aligns directly with that of Councilwoman McGrath, who has earned and deserves to be the next mayor of Verona. Gentlemen, councilmen, stop playing gender games. The ideology of our next mayor should fit the current and growing diverse population of Verona. They need to demonstrate their interest in many social causes and actively support Pride, Hanukkah, Diwali, Ramadan, action against gun violence, equity and multicultural inclusion in our changing township and in Verona's public schools. Verona residents know that Christine McGrath has proven herself to be the next mayor of Verona. I definitely and enthusiastically support Christine McGrath to be chosen as mayor of Verona on July 1st. Thank you.
Anyone else? One's in the room first, and I'll go to Zoom comments for a minute.
Sorry.
We just wait just a moment, the person at the time.
Good evening.
Just one moment, please.
Sure.
Your name and your city of residence, please.
I'm Ann Ball.
And,
I live at 33 Chestnut,
just your city. Verona,
Verona.
thank you, sorry. New rules, great, please go ahead.
Good evening, all. Jen, special shout out. I'm here just to request that you seriously consider repaving Chestnut Road. I do have some pictures for you. I can pass out to you. I didn't put the address, but these are right up.
You still on?
That's all. Okay,
Thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? I do see one hand raised on Zoom. We'll get to the Zoom commenter next. Okay. Your name and your
Thank
city of
you.
residence.
Rob Gottstein, Verona, New Jersey. I'd just like to thank the entire council for their service to our community. Here as well to support Christine McGrath for mayor. I just want to let everyone know I've known Christine for a long time. She's an advocate for everyone in the town. She's at every local event. I saw her at what I thought was going to be Neil Diamond last week, but it was not Neil Diamond. Yeah, it was great though. Christine reaches out to everybody in the community. Public input is what Christine does, whether at a community event or party. Christine's always there asking questions and talking to everybody. She has a tremendous passion for what she does, and it shows in her commitment to the community. I'm just so disappointed to hear about the pushback from the council on Christine becoming mayor. If not for the get out the vote drive from last election with our committee, I believe this council would look a lot different. In response to what Mr. Roman said at the last meeting, nobody is more engaged from what I see in getting public comment and input from the community. I believe public comment is what motivates Christine. I actually saw Christine campaigning last election. It was on Cumberland, and it was those houses that have a lot of steps on them. And I turned around and I came back, I turned the car around, and she's talking to people on the street. And after I went to the store, I came back the other way. She's talking to people down the block on the street. It just tells you how much she's engaged with the community. I'd just like to respond to the New Jersey Globe article. I'm just concerned that part of the council will not even comment on this. If there's no comment, we can assume that the article contains facts and they're not disputed. That being that the vote is divided along gender lines, which the last speaker said is quite disturbing. There's only been 2 women mayors in Verona since 1908. 7% of the 29 mayors over the last 115 years. I'm just wondering how that's even possible. I agree with Representative Cheryl and Donald Payne Jr. I hope you consider Christine for mayor. Thank you.
Very much. We do have some hands raised on Zoom. I'll go to them in a moment. And if anyone else in the room wants to come up and let me go to commenters on Zoom real briefly, and I'll let anyone else in the room back up as well. We can bring our first Zoom commenter. And then as soon as you're brought in, just your name and your city of residence, please. You're muted. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah. Is that the only hand we have raised?
Well, none of it really was in that.
Yeah. Okay. We'll try to go back to them. We'll try and come back to you in just a moment. Anyone else in the room? Please come up.
Good evening, Alan Zacks, Verona. I've been a Verona resident for 45 years. I want to praise the council for the work they've been doing for the last few years. And I hope that will continue going forward. And I'm lending my voice here in support of Christine McGrath for your consideration as the next mayor. In addition, I want to thank Steve Neal for his longtime service to the community. He's going to be missed. And he deserves everyone's thanks. Thank you.
If the commenter on Zoom wants to try again. If I see your hand go up, I'll let you come in. Does anyone else in the room want to comment? Okay, I'll do, please. And just your name and your city of residence, please.
Ted Giblin, 39 Howard Street. Just used to have it there. I'm here, as many other people are, to lend my support to Christine McGrath as mayor. I had the ability to serve on the council with many of you from 2017 through 2021. I made the decision to bow out because I certainly understand the demands that it takes, especially with people who have a family. But Christine's certainly proven herself throughout the community as someone who's an advocate for all members of the community. She shows up at every event. She shows up at events for the county, which I think is critically important for Verona to have relationships. You know, the article that came out is somewhat disturbing in that what it says and purports is that one of the council members, Ms. Holland, wasn't even contacted by any of the three gentlemen regarding how she might vote as far as mayor goes. So, you know, I was on the council and there was a lot of big talk all the time about transparency this. We're more transparent than the last guys, but I'm not seeing a lot of that. So I am very disappointed. But listen, I hope Christine does become mayor. I think she deserves it. And that would be the right step for the community. It would also send the message to folks like myself who have two young daughters, where I want to see them succeed. I want to see them have opportunities. And, you know, if they put the time in, if they're engaged, if they are deputy mayor, if they get elected to a second term, I really think that's the criteria we should be using for someone to have the role of mayor. Thank you. And by the way, with Stephen here, Stephen, I also wish you the best of luck. You were great for Verona, and I loved working with you during the time I was in the council.
Thank you very much. I do see the hand back up, so we can kind of let her back in. Looks like you're still muted. If you're able to request unmute.
Yeah, I'm trying.
If we can't get you in, I'm going to invite you to dial in a little bit later if you'd like to comment. We'll just give you another second here.
Now email the council
Yeah,
if they're
that's fair.
unable to, if they're having technical difficulties.
Okay. I'm very sorry. We'd love to hear from you. If you do want to try during the general public comment period, sometimes dialing in by phone helps, or if not, please feel free to send us an email. Is there any other further public comment? So with that, I'll close public comment for this section. Obviously, there has been a lot of public interest in the mayoral selection process this year, perhaps more so than in previous years. Anyone who's been reaching out to me one-on-one, I've been giving them a very detailed explanation of my thoughts on the way things stand. Typically, I mean, I still, you know, we work together as a group here. I don't like to express concerns or to, you know, to put too many discussions out as public statements, but if anyone's really curious to get a read from me on where my head's at, please send me an email. You will get a very detailed response. I think I've gotten every email that has come my way so far. The only couple of things that I will say, since it's fair, the questions have been asked. For those who are jumping to gender bias as a potential issue, I would say simply correlation does not imply causation. That's a logical fallacy that's existed for a very, very long time. There are differing ideologies and belief systems on the council, but I would very much deny that there's anything caused by differences in gender between council members. Certainly, I would not like that to be the way we work together as a group. I have the utmost respect for everybody that I work with up here. I think everybody is very hardworking, very smart, cares about this community a lot. The council always has had a lot of challenges in choosing its own leadership, which is really what we're doing here is as you would elect the president of the board, essentially to lead the council. That is what this process is here. One thing I'll remind people is that the mayor does not possess powers that are greater than other members of the council, such as a veto. There are some, you do preside over the meetings, you do conduct public ceremonies, and there are some mayoral appointments, but other than that, your vote is equal to all of us as it should be. There was also a comment made about campaign finance. Since that was directed at me, I'll respond to that one as well. Within this campaign, I made a very deliberate choice to limit what I spent on the campaign. I could have spent much more if I wanted to, but I chose not to. There were some public concerns put out in recent elections that it's simply to the point where there's too much spending going on to run for office in a town this size. I have never been comfortable with fundraising, so when I spend money, it's my own out of pocket. I realize that not everybody is always able to do that. So I don't challenge any of that. I just simply say that the overall cost of campaigns, I'd like to, see them be at a number that's a little bit more reasonable for the size of our community. I think that sometimes the money that goes into these things, we could do a whole lot more good with it in the community, but everybody makes their own choices. I had looked at during the course of my campaign, whether to send out more mail or to do other things. I made a deliberate decision to sort of cap my spend there simply because it was a personal choice that I made. And again, I just greatly appreciate everyone that was supportive of my reelection. I'm very glad that the deputy mayor was also reelected. I'm very happy that she'll continue to serve with all of us up here. And the discussions are ongoing, and that'll be the extent of my comments. If anyone else wishes to comment, please feel free. Okay. Seeing none.
You know what, Mr. Mayor, I would like to say something. A lot of people are talking about transparency, and the reason why we're not out there talking about who's going to be mayor. I've been through this process 3 times on the council, and I saw it go on for many years before it. It's not something that's discussed in public. It's something that's discussed between the 5 council people. We make this decision who's going to be mayor. For myself personally, I will choose someone that will bring the council together and have everybody work together on everybody's agendas for the entire township of Verona. And that's how I feel. The article, as we're talking about, that came out, I'm going to be more blunt, it was disgusting. And you talk about transparency. How do you write an article if you don't contact all 3 people you're talking about in the article? And I was one of them, obviously, because I'm one of the 3 males up here. I mean, how do you write it? He didn't contact me. He didn't get a statement from me. So how could he sit in that article and say who I'm voting for? I was getting calls, emails, text messages from people before I even made any decision, and I haven't yet, but telling me who I should or shouldn't vote for. And that's how it goes. It's a discussion between the council people, and someone who's a former council person should know that. There's many other things I want to say. It's going to be something that's decided on Saturday at noon. Join us, you'll see who is the mayor. I mean, it's just the transparency issue comes up time and time again, and it's almost like a buzzword just to put people down. If you're going to talk about a gender thing, well, I'm going to go back to several years ago. We had a council person who was Jewish. He was the deputy mayor for 2 terms, wasn't mayor. He didn't come out and say, oh, everybody else on the council was anti-Semitic. That's exactly the same situation that we're being put in here. Anybody that knows me knows that that's not me. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else? All right. We have no ordinances on first reading. We'll run through the consent agenda briefly, and then we'll take public comment on consent agenda items only. We have 2 sets of minutes. Did anyone have any changes on the minutes?
Mayor,
Please.
one word,
Yes.
I think we're on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, I wish we were.
Yeah, thank you for that very well-deserved point of order. After 2 years, you think that I would be able to keep where I'm at? All right, so we do have 3 ordinances on second reading. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of G1?
Amending various sections of the Code of the Township of Verona by creating the Office of Deputy Manager, eliminating Chapter 5, Administration of Government, Article 7, Department of Administration and Economic Development, and amending Chapter 5, Administration of Government, Article 11, Department of Public Works, to create Chapter 5 -125 Division of Buildings and Grounds.
And I'll just give the would somebody like to move this ordinance? I heard Councilwoman Holland first, and second Councilman Timbrell. And as the title says, this is essentially a structural change in the township's organization to create the Office of Deputy Manager, to eliminate the Administration and Economic Development group, other than make other minor structural changes. I'll give my comments after we do public hearing. So that was the time for public hearing. Would you please read the?
Anyone wishing to address an item that is scheduled for a public hearing, if you're attending by Zoom, and button on your monitor, you're dialing in by phone. Your name for the record. You will have 4 minutes to address the council on this item. Your comments and our questions shall be. There will be no cross dialogue during these public hearings. After everyone wishing to speak has been heard. On the YouTube channel, and address is. Just your comments and your questions.
Too much. And then this is limited to this ordinance only. Okay, one comment. Just a couple more seconds. Okay. Oh. Right, I'm going to close public comment on this ordinance. Even though we are having some personnel changes, I still think that this, as we discussed a little bit earlier, that this makes a lot of sense. We've talked a lot about succession planning in this community, in all of our operations and all of our departments, as well as division of labor and the ability to delegate. So I still do think, we've seen over the years that life just gets more complicated, and our project workload doesn't ever get smaller here in this town. It's a good thing that we're able to serve our residents to the extent that we do, and to do the work that we're able to do, but it does take people in the appropriate positions in the org chart to be able to do this. So I'm still, I'm in favor of this moving forward with it. So if there's any other council comment? Okay. That being said, all right, Madam Clerk, you can please call the roll.
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilman Tamburro.
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McGrath,
Yes.
Mayor Roman.
Yes.
Mayor Ordinance 2023-26 passes by 0, and it will be published according to law.
Okay. Now we have another ordinance on second reading. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of that ordinance in the record?
Capital ordinance appropriating $60,000 from capital fund balance for various capital improvements.
The ordinance.
So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McGrath. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Timbrell. Okay, this one's pretty self-explanatory for capital ordinance. We'll do the public hearing under the same public comment statement. If you would like to comment, please raise your hand on Zoom or come to the lectern. Last call. Seeing none, close public comment. Any council discussion?
Yes, Mayor. This is a standard ordinance that we do so that we can replace shade trees and the potential damage shade trees do give to sidewalks and catch basins. However, as I've stated before, this is by no means making a dent in how many shade trees we need to replace. This is just sort of standard course of business. The Shade Tree Commission is looking for a much more substantial investment, and they are preparing an analysis for the township manager so that it can be presented to the council as part of a 5-year capital plan.
Thanks very much for that comment. I know we're, we've heard from the Shade Tree Commission. I've had this discussion with the chairs. You've had the same discussions. We know that we have a deficit, and especially as storms happen, reconstruction projects. It's very important that we maintain our shade tree inventory in this town, simply because it's so much of the fabric of this community that it is well worth the investment in my opinion. So, any other council discussions?
And also note that in all of our road construction projects, we do allocate some funds for shade tree replacement, such as street cyclists and.
That is correct. There is a public commenter here on this, but I already did close public comment on this ordinance.
I think Mrs. Thomas is the co-chair of the Shade Tree
Yes,
Commission.
so if there's not an objection from the rest of the council.
No objection.
All right, then we will welcome Mrs. Thomas in comment. You're still, are you muted? There you are.
Thank you for, I was trying to raise my hand and the technology as it is, I couldn't get it up. Carol Thomas, Verona. I am the chair of the Shade Tree Commission, and I appreciate this new, you can hear me, correct?
Yeah.
We can.
Okay. You can, I appreciate the new ordinance of 60,000 for trees and other improvements in town. We are, as you all know, and you all mentioned very precisely, we are quite a deficit in replacing shade trees in Verona. So I was happy to see this ordinance and have it pointed out to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will if there's no one else, I will reclose public comment on this. Any further council discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Holland,
Yes.
Councilman Tamburo,
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McGrath,
Yes.
Mayor Roman,
Yes.
Mayor Ordinance 2023-27 passes 5-0, and it will be published according to law.
And thank you to the Shade Tree Commission for their ongoing work in preserving this community resource. Then we have one final ordinance on second reading. Madam Clerk, please read 2023-28.
A capital ordinance by appropriate in the Construction Code Department.
Would someone like to move?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman McAvoy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor McGrath. We'll again, the brief, this is another capital ordinance. It was sort of discussed in detail in the past. This is the acquisition of an electronic plan review table for the building department.
And it is required.
It is, yes, a state mandated plan table. Okay. Any public comment on this? I'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to raise your hand on Zoom, or if anyone in the room wants to talk about the plan table, that's called. All right, I'll close public comment. Any council discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilman Tamburo,
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McGrath,
Yes.
Mayor Roman,
Yes.
Mayor Ordinance 2023 passes 5-0, and it will be published according to law.
Okay. Very much. We have no ordinances on first reading. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Now that we're at the right place in the agenda. Did anyone have any corrections on the minutes? It's May 15th and the May 30th.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I wasn't able to finish the May 15th in time. I'll have them for the next meeting.
Okay.
So we just have the special meeting for May 30th. I apologize.
Okay, so only one set of minutes.
Yes.
The correction.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that will just so we'll strike J1 from the consent agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And there was a correction made in the spread out in those minutes.
Okay.
That Councilman McAvoy did not second it. He was not present.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
all right, then in proposed resolutions, we have the appointment of Joseph Angelo, the Verona Municipal Court Judge, do our shared services with North Caldwell and Essex Fells. And our thanks to John Margrazzo for his many years of service to us in that role. Accepting the national opioid settlement, the DOT grant submission for Linden Avenue Improvements Project, VMAC FY 2024 grant authorization, one property maintenance lien, our 2023 to 2024 council meeting dates. Did anyone have any concerns with the meeting dates? So please speak up. Please. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, normally is this not something that we adopted the reorg meeting? I seem to remember in the past that we've done that.
I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
either way, I was just trying to get some stuff out of the way. If you want to hold it over,
I definitely have some.
we can. It's,
Questions with this.
Okay.
Can we pull it out of consent
Yeah,
agenda?
let's pull it out of consent. Do we want to table it till the reorg, or do we want to talk about it in new business?
I personally like to talk
Let's
about.
talk about it, yeah, because there's 3 or 4 dates on here that really should be changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then that one we will out of consent. Okay, and then executive session, which is pending ongoing anticipated litigation and contract settlement negotiations. Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor, I would like to pull K3 out of consent agenda, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
3. Okay, anyone else? So the consent agenda consists of 1 set of minutes and then K1, 2, 4, 5, and 7. So now is the time for public comment on consent agenda items only. Under the previous public comment statement, just limited to consent agenda only. So raise your hand on Zoom or come up. Oh, I'm sorry, would someone like to move the consent agenda? It's not fine.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Hall, seconded by Councilwoman McAvoy. Okay. Not seeing any public comment, last call. Okay, public comment closed. Any council discussion on the items that are within the consent agenda?
Yes, I want to just comment on the VMAC grant. So the council may recall, we spend $10,000 for the court to submit everything for VMAC, and I point out that our grant is around 17,000, and we put in a cash match of 4,000. So I think long term, this is just something we have to keep an eye on. How much we're spending to get the grant. Is this program working? And it's something that I think would be a great conversation item to add to that list between our town manager and the superintendent. And obviously this also interacts also with the police department. It's good to reevaluate these programs every once in a while to see if what we're doing makes sense.
Mr. Fiarco, take under reminder. Okay. All right, any other council discussion on the consent agenda? Okay. I actually do see 2 hands raised. Again, I'll ask the same question of my colleagues here if we want to accept public comment or consider those untimely.
Let's get through this. We get through this first.
I'm sorry.
consent agenda only. Karen?
Do we want to accept the public comment, or do we want to ask them comment during ordinary public comment?
Is it for consent?
We don't know.
If they have a comment on consent agenda.
Okay, all right, then we'll welcome in, I will reopen public comment. If we can please let the first Zoom commenter in.
It's for consent agenda.
And just a reminder, this is for the consent agenda items only. There will be additional public comment later. And if you have any procedural questions, I can answer those for you real quick. Just give your name and your address, or sorry, your name and your city only. Are they muted?
Yes, she is.
You are still muted. Try and unmute yourself. Go down to audio in the lower left-hand corner and try turning on your mic. It isn't. Cole.
Switch them out.
Yeah, let's try the next one. Sorry, we'll try to go back here just a moment.
Hi, good evening.
Hello, your name and your city only, please.
Hi, I apologize. Katie McClure, Verona, New Jersey. I apologize. I was the commenter who couldn't comment earlier. I don't know if I'm still able to comment now.
Now, there will be a general public comment session towards the end of the meeting. Right now, this is the consent agenda only. So we can only accept public comment on our consent agenda. And then if you look at item O on the agenda towards the end, that's the next time for general public comment on any matter.
Okay, thank you.
And then we can give our other commenter one more try if they like to try and get in. Is she muted?
Yeah.
Still muted. All right. I'm sorry, again, I would suggest either try dialing in via phone or send us an email.
Yeah,
Right, so.
there's
okay.
always that opportunity to send you.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm going to close public comment on this. We already did council discussion, so I believe unless there's anything else, we can ask for a roll call vote on this is J2, K1, K2, K4, K5, K7.
Sorry. Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McAvoy,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McGrath,
Yes,
Mayor Roman,
Yes.
Mayor K 12457 will be numbered 138, 139, 140, 41, 142.
All right, then let's go to K3, which is the DOT grant submission for Linden Avenue Improvements Project. Someone like to move that resolution?
So moved.
Someone want to second that resolution? I'll second the resolution for discussion. Council discussion on K3?
yeah, so the last time, the reason I asked to have this pulled is the last time we had a grant submission for Douglas Place. I had asked for, before we did another one of these, an analysis of our streets so that we could understand the state of, you know, whether or not they need to be, when the last time they were repaved, reconstructed, so that we could understand a little bit more of these decisions. I understand the importance, and I had a great conversation with Mr. Dico about the importance of always applying for these grants, and some of the grants are a little bit different, which I'm sure he can address this Linden specifically, but we still didn't get the analysis. I know we have a lot on our plate, but I'm going to respectfully not vote for this resolution. I really want to understand our roads before we keep greenlighting these road reconstruction projects. I really need to understand the big picture. So I'll let Mr. Diarco speak to Linden Avenue.
Can I ask before you answer, what section of, is this, this isn't the entire Linden Avenue, is there a specific section that we're doing?
Yeah, I believe the plan was actually repaving of the entire strip.
And this street, based on sort of its history, I remember very early, very early on in sort of my tenure, and I'm sorry, I jumped in Mr. Yarko just a moment here, but so very early on in my tenure, the street was sort of being reconstructed in segments going down the street. Then PSE and GE came and dug the entire street up and did gas line replacements. So they repaved it again. So I'm just kind of curious, and it is a fair question, sort of, what is the, there is an area of Linden closer to Pompton that is in relatively rough shape, which I am a little surprised about given the age of the street. But I'll let Mr. Diarco kind of jump in a little bit.
Yeah, I did email the township engineer because it is an NJDOT funded project, which does include drainage. And it qualifies under the NJDOT, which but it's those NJDOT drainage issues. And the question came up a number of months ago relative to have a comprehensive plan, and I directed the township engineers and possible engineers to prepare a proposal so that we can do a comprehensive study on the roadways like every city does. It's the life of the road, when it was repaved, what the condition is, and it's done independently of this, which road should be done. It's categorized so you have a plan, and then you'd be able to manage your road improvement capital plan every year, how many roads you're going to do with given amount of funds. Have a plan, you understand your NJDOT road work because it only applies to those roads that qualify.
There was a pavement condition report quite a while ago. We have not had that formally updated in a very long time. That was originally sort of the guiding star as to that, and we mostly did road reconstruction. The rule was that if a road didn't have Belgian block curb, it probably hadn't ever been reconstructed and was original. So we went through a lot of road reconstructions, but I would agree with you that there is not currently a plan.
Yeah, there isn't, yeah,
Right.
and that is underway, so hopefully I'll have it finished for this year. So moving on in 2024 and further, you'll have a multi-year plan.
As far as this particular application goes, is this the only, what we feel the only grant eligible roadway on the table right now?
That was the decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how much of this would be a municipal share, do we think?
I'd have to
The
double check.
engineering will be the municipal share. I'm pretty sure that Peter's in Alaska. the township engineer on vacation emailed me from Alaska that I gave it to Giselle, who is assigned this task here, but normally it is a lion's share of the project, and the engineering is what we have to pay for.
Councilman Hall?
I'm curious if we are looking at the entire length of the bridge that crossed, and is that a consideration? If we are doing, it's just a repaving, it's not reconstruction, because it sounded like you were saying reconstruction.
He's indicated it was ADA ramps and drainage and the paving.
So when we talk about drainage, I mean, are aware that in the two most critical storms that we had that affected Verona residents, the water actually topped that bridge. So it is actually the existing bridge, or
I don't know, I can't answer that. When Peter.
I think the bridge may be county.
I'm intrigued by, like, I don't fully understand the intersection between and I guess,
Yeah.
is there a critical time sense deciding this tonight for application to the grant? I mean, does
Need your authorization to submit the project. I believe you already authorized the. It was on vacation.
Yeah,
So
not
It was
for that
discussed.
project, yeah.
I'm not taking any vacation.
no more vacations?
I think at that meeting, it was like, the timing sounded like near terms.
Was it like June 30th is the deadline?
Yeah, I actually think it's
Application?
July 1.
July 1. So we have a meeting on July 1st.
Let's
No.
not.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is, again, this is, if there is any kind of timeliness factor, I'd rather give the authorization to apply for this and then to trust the administration to do the right thing and make sure that, we're,
And then council's always. Go into competition for the. And you may or may not get the award that you want, but you still have the option to not. I heard you doing that a lot. That puts you on the list of not rejecting things.
right.
But you do have an opportunity to look at the depth of the application, what is.
Unless any other, and my kind of where I stand on this is basically that I think that we should definitely get it granted, particularly if there's any hint of a timeline approaching us. But I agree that we probably are very much due for a formal study and plan for our roadways going forward. So
That was the depth, sir.
I know Mr. Molinaro keeps very close tabs on this.
Right.
And had communicated his interest in building that new project over the last year, so this isn't a surprise. But he does have the institutional knowledge to do that. And I think we can rely on his discretion.
And I, in fact, had sent a request to Mr. Diarco to look at the lower portion of road of Linden closest to Mount Prospect to Pompton. Because like I said, that section of roadway actually did have some pretty bad potholes in it. We did do some patching on it, but I was pretty surprised, given that Linden is not an old street, and it was fully reconstructed, that it had deteriorated faster than I would expect it to. So it's probably, when there's one bad spot, there's a lot. So, I'd say if it needs to get repaved, it probably.
While we're on the topic of Linden Avenue, before I forget, I walked the length of Linden yesterday and was surprised to find multiple instances of double utility poles in violation of our ordinance. If you could send somebody to take a look, and also there are a couple poles. There are several around town that have not been removed, even though we provided notice to PSC&G. But Linden, I don't know if they looked maybe recent, but I noticed them. I generally walk on the south side of the road. I was walking north side of the road and past these repeated double telephone poles. If you could follow PSC&G as well.
Mayor,
Please.
Timing is everything. Last week I met with Mr. Epps. And provided him with the Excel spreadsheet we have on all of the polls that were given notice. And I directed that he give summonses to both Verona
Nice.
Yeah.
That-
Because I was gonna ask whether or not they were all.
I will send the list to the council of
Thank you.
the Excel spreadsheet, just in case.
Us from having to keep sending them to you.
Enforcement is fun.
I just want to add this.
Enforcement is fun.
I just want to add this, public service in the last month has replaced any of those telephone poles
Yeah,
through Verona and Cedar Grove. So a lot of them are basically brand new.
yeah, our program is working on the accountability of PSCG is notified. And Verizon is notified, both government agents. And they know, they get a copy of our ordinance and they know they have a timeline. And when it's not taken down, I'm not gonna play Solomon and decide who's at fault. I tell them to give summonses to both, and let the judge decide.
That is a great approach.
All right, does anyone see any reason why we should not, does anyone intend to make a motion to table this or this resolution, or should we proceed to a vote? Okay, do we want to take public comment on repaving Linden? Sure. Let me, let's go, let's talk about meeting dates first, and I'll just do one quick comment session.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Do we want to do meeting dates as, again, sending on meeting dates just procedurally? Do we want to vote on meeting dates this evening, or do we want, or is anyone intending to table meeting dates until the reorg?
I mean, if we can come to an agreement, I see no reason why we should.
Okay, then let's just do, would someone like to move the, resolution?
I will
please?
move the resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, council discussion?
Yes, I have several dates. I'll start with September 25th. I think we should move that to October 2nd. September 25th is Yom Kippur. Moving down, we have a scheduled November 6th meeting. I know in the past, several years ago, we had basically have an unwritten rule now that we don't want to have a meeting the day before an election. Obviously, because if the meeting goes till 12, the clerk gets 2 hours of sleep, if that. Because she has a busy day the day after. So I would suggest moving that to November 12th. Excuse me, November 13th, that is. And then we have a meeting on the 20th after that. I don't think we need a meeting on November 20th. And the reason for also moving the November 6th meeting is we have a meeting the week before on October 30th. So October 30th, and then the next meeting would be weeks later on November 13th. And then the following week after that, I believe, is Thanksgiving. So we can't get a meeting next meeting. The next week would be December.
Let me just check on through any, do you have any other ones?
Yes, and then lastly, we have April 22nd next year. That is Passover. So I suggest we don't have a meeting on this.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes, so I want to thank Councilman McAvoy, but I have some alternative ideas. So yes, I agree on Monday, September 25th, we should not be on Kippur, but could we explore having a meeting just on Tuesday and just moving it to Tuesday, September 26th, instead of moving the entire calendar as an alternative? I mean, so that was one thing. On the November dates, I also was surprised we were having a meeting on November 6th, but November 13th is right before the league. So I'm not sure if all the staff will be here on the 13th if we were to push that meeting on the 6th. So I do just want to raise that. It's hard to meet the night before the League of Municipalities start, and some staff members may be down early. I totally also agree that we should not be having a meeting on the first night of Passover, Monday, April 22nd, but again, could we consider just moving it to Tuesday instead of meeting on Monday? So I just would throw that out there as an alternative idea.
Okay, any other concerns?
I just want
You're
to
good.
throw something out. Deputy Mayor McGrath, I checked the school calendar and there's not a back to school night on the 26th. So I think that is on the Tuesday.
Wait, the school calendar, this one?
Yeah, so I just, there's not one, so I'm fine with that.
Oh, okay.
This is
I would
for
like to
September.
say, I also checked that there wasn't a back to school night on the 26th, but
26th of what?
September.
So instead of moving the weeks, can we just consider doing it Tuesday? I know we did it maybe once or twice in my first 4 years, so it's not something we do often.
It's only, is there anything else? It's just the Zoom account, I think, is the only real concern. Do we have anything on that might conflict?
The boards meet Thursdays,
Yeah.
Board of Adjustment too.
I'll do Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at the annual notice of meetings.
Yeah.
Rec has Tuesday night meetings, but not
But
on the
not-
26th or the
None of
23rd.
them gave me that date of a meeting. There is no Zoom on the 26th. So we have available.
So we would say 9/26 as an alternative here, and then for 11/6 to 11/13, concerns with holding a meeting the night before the league.
I know we've done.
That'll be a very municipal week.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
We have done it before.
we have actually done that before.
Yeah.
Would we still be keeping the 20th? Was that?
There's a reason.
Or was it proposed? That's the thing,
No.
are you proposing, so it's just the one meeting in November 13th?
Well, the 20th would be the following Monday.
Yeah, so
Right.
I'm just asking the other council members what the proposal is.
Yeah, what sounded like the proposal was to have only a meeting on the 13th in the month of November. Correct here.
Is that?
Is that sufficient for getting business done?
Well,
know
I
that
mean,
there was a challenge with.
we have a meeting October 30th, so 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
We have the 13th. And then the next week is Thanksgiving, and then there's 2 weeks after that.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay,
Okay.
so just one meeting in November on the 13th.
I think we're one of the few governing bodies that actually has 2 meetings each month in the summer. So I think we're making up one meeting by having 4 meetings in the summer. Definitely.
Okay, and then the April 22nd meeting, did we want, so that one we just start looking at striking entirely or moving that one?
Or just moving into Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Wait, so I'm just checking the notice.
Yep. Okay, all right. So I would entertain a motion to amend the resolution to move the meeting date from September 25th to September 26th. To move the November 6th meeting to November the 13th. To cancel the November the 20th meeting. Sorry, to remove it from the calendar, and to move the April 22nd meeting to April 23rd.
So moved.
Okay, second. All in favor of the amendment to the resolution? Aye. Okay, all right, so now we have just the amended resolution. So I'm gonna accept public comment on the Linden Avenue grant submission and council meeting dates. So same public comment statement applies. 4 minutes, come up to the lectern or raise your hand on Zoom. And this is only on these 2 topics. Okay, and
Alan Zaks, Verona, just for the information of the council. Passover, the observance of Passover, the first 2 nights are observed by most people. So that moving it from the 22nd to the 23rd, it still might not meet the intent, I think, of what the council would like to do. So just want to let you know.
any other public comment? Good, we'll close public comment. Okay, I'll close public comment and any further council discussion?
We revise it.
Should we strike
I'd say
that
we
date?
should.
I'm not sure if we had an alternative date.
All right, I mean, is there a conflict on the Wednesday?
There,
Yes, there is.
Okay.
the multicultural committee.
Why don't we leave it in the schedule?
Yeah, you know, that is a good point, and it would be in budget hearing.
Yeah.
Special meeting.
Right.
So that's actually a valid point. You could always publish your schedule, and then if we needed to add an additional meeting, we can work on it at that time.
Correct, then we would publish
Yeah,
ahead of time as well.
so perhaps we just move to strike that.
Okay, all right, so then we will, I will entertain a motion to amend the resolution again to strike. All right.
Second,
Okay, moved by Tim Burrow, seconded by McAvoy, all in favor, aye.
I,
Okay, all right. Now, we'll take a vote on the actual, let's do you guys want to do these separately or do you?
Separately.
Okay, all right, so the Linden Avenue K3 resolution, Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll on that one.
Councilman Holland,
yes.
Councilman Tamburo,
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McGrath,
no,
Mayor Roman.
Yes.
Okay, K3, oh, where's my? So I'm sorry, K3 will be numbered 143, passes 4-1.
Okay, and then for K6 as amended and then amended again, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on that?
Yes. Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilman Tamburro,
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McGrath,
Yes.
Mayor Roman.
Yes.
So the K6 will be numbered 144, passes 5-0.
Very much. Moving on to new and unfinished business. Ordinances for discussion, for bond ordinances. Sheet. Yargo or Mr. Neal? To discuss it.
If I may, I just want to recuse myself.
We noted, Mr. Mahone has recused yourself from the discussion. On this.
All right, do you want to just go down the list for,
Let's just talk through, we'll probably want to have council discussion on these as we go along. We'll just go through the bond ordinances.
yeah, so the first one, so our two that we do have DOT grants currently for are the reconstruction of Boston Whitney, Windermere, and then the reconstruction of Douglas Place. Those are pretty straightforward reconstructions. The next one, C, is for additional design services that we're looking at for the well projects, and then the services during construction. Covers all that cost for both wells too, for the engineering firm.
How much of that is supplemental? The $500,000 is a lot of soft cost. How much of that is supplemental engineering and how much of that is, and was there no construction supervision in the original proposal?
In the original proposal, that was just design.
Just design.
Yeah, so now this is, I think the breakdown for the services during construction is about 250,000. So about half of that is for just the oversight during the construction phase.
And did they give an estimate of how many weeks all that service period runs?
Yeah, I don't have that proposal in front of me right now, unfortunately.
Okay. And does it line up? I mean, well, we don't have construction estimates yet as to how long it's going to be.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, let's just.
Yeah, on this one, so is this coming out of the water and sewer utilities, and is this going in the I bank, and so like, how is that working?
So this, we're doing the bond to fund it. I believe there's a certain percentage of costs that can come out of the iBank funding for soft costs, but the majority of this is probably out of pocket. I have to double check the percentages, but all of this is soft cost, so engineering, design and oversight.
So is it the water and sewer utility? I just want to be clear, or is this coming out?
Water and sewer,
Oh, I'm sorry.
utility.
But it doesn't, it just isn't clear in the title. Normally I would say it, right?
It's a bond now.
Yeah, it's a bond.
Yeah, so it's not coming out of any our operating.
But it's a water, it's a water and sewer.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I
sorry,
meant.
it's misunderstood.
Yes, okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Any other discussion on any of the bond ordinances?
Yeah, I have a question. Steve, it looks like N1 and between N1 and N2, it seems like the scope of the work is different. And I'm looking at N1 and we have three streets, Boston, Windermere and Whitney. I actually drove because it's like, why aren't we doing Peters Lane? Because that's an artery in there. And Peters Lane looks like it was done. Recently it was in good shape, but I'm looking at like exactly what they're doing here for 1.4. And they're pretty detailed, resurfacing, reconditioning, portions of the road, it says. Are we only doing portions or is it the entire?
It's the entire loop,
Okay.
I guess, as you would say in there, yeah.
Okay, I don't know why maybe we should strike portions so we know we're doing the entire thing. So I'm fine with everything they're doing there. Now we move to the next one and it's almost half the cost at $650. And it's not as detailed with what's going on there. N2 is milling, resurface, and reconstruction, but just curb, storm and sanitary, and sewer. But it says sewer replacement as necessary, so they're limiting that. I mean, I know that's an area that gets a lot of water, So I think we should pay attention to the word necessary in there and whose discretion is that?
It would be the engineering shop,
Yeah,
whether it's necessary or not.
okay. And just, I mean, looking at the cost of this, the scope of the work for N2, they're not detailing as many things, and so it doesn't seem like they're doing as much. And it's literally, that road has to be, I tried to look at it, it's like 650 feet long compared to N1 where you're like 2,500 feet.
And there's no sidewalks, in Douglas
Yeah.
Place.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering why that amount, and I realize obviously the grant is taking a good portion of it, but it's still 200,000 plus out of our pockets. So I'm just wondering if they recalculate that, like, that number seems a little high.
So they are definitely high. We anticipate them being lower, but we wanted to go in high, just we don't have the detailed plans yet.
Okay.
So just want to make sure we kind of cover everything. Just so we don't run into any issues and falling short and having to come back.
It's easier to cancel response than to go. It should drive you crazy, very honestly. So our recommendation has been to have the estimates slightly higher so that we don't have to add to bonds or issue a second.
I understand that logic. I'm just looking at that number of 650,000 compared to 1.4 million. It's, it's almost half, but in the Windermere area, we're doing 4 times as much work. Plus, this is when it comes to the lineal footage. So I just,
Do we want to maybe
when we get
discuss,
those estimates, let's take a look at it.
can we talk a little bit about construction estimating and how we get to these dollar figures? To what level of scope of work? And so, I'm assuming these are Boswell's numbers.
Yes.
Okay,
These are possible numbers.
okay. And what is, what is Boswell's process, if in terms of developing this engineering?
So these two were actually applied for before Boswell came on entirely. Boswell has reviewed the original engineering kind of estimates that were developed with our previous engineer and our previous staff member. That's where the original estimates come from. Boswell now is aware of them, kind of looked through the applications that went to the DOT and has kind of fallen in line with it without really diving into the design yet.
I mean, I also was I was curious on how we only got 300,000 for, again, a much bigger project, and then yet on this smaller road, we have 400, we got a grant of 400,000, like the scale didn't make sense to me. So maybe when the engineers can, if they can help put that in context. I will say, having recently met a lot of residents on Douglas Place, they are having, especially towards the end, significant water issues. So I don't know if that's factoring in that there's actually more sewer going on here, or catch basin improvements. In fact, I think part of the road doesn't even have the right drainage, and so it's being added. So I know the residents on on Douglas are incredibly excited for this project, but it's the juxtaposition of both of them that's just still a little confusing.
Yeah, from what I understand of it, for the Boston, Whitney, and Windermere, it's really more of a straightforward, just paving. There's not a lot of water work. Yeah, there's not a lot of tree removals like in some of the others, so you won't see as drastic of a change there. So there's just a lot less work to do, like invasive work, I would say.
Yeah, there's less mature trees.
Steve, is part of this that 2 different engineering firms did the cost estimating for these?
The original cost estimate was done by previous engineer.
The 2 projects were estimated by the same.
Projects were different engineers, right?
Oh, these 2 projects were done by the same.
They were done.
Yeah.
Because I know we had some talk on Whitney and Windermere before.
I guess I'll ask the councils to, this is obviously just a discussion here. Is there any, do we want to get any more information, or do we want to see these introduced as ordinances in the future, or?
I think the answer is both.
Okay.
Nice. And I think I would be happy to vote on the introduction of this with the clarity on why these numbers are, why there's such a difference between the numbers.
Yeah, we could send you more additional information.
Yeah,
as well.
the detail explanation rather than the estimate. I'm sure the engineer has one,
Mhm.
right, that they
Yeah.
provide you, that this is how much you think it costs.
Yeah.
That would, I think, probably answer a lot of our questions.
Yeah, usually they do look at, they come up with numbers for surface area, how much materials and so on.
Yeah.
So that worksheet we should have.
Yeah, we'll send you the sheet that was submitted for the grants.
Right.
That's all.
Anyone else on A and B? And then we didn't get too far into C. I brought up about the
Yeah.
split on those expenses. Thoughts in general? Again, aside from the fact that's a lot of money. No thoughts?
You are right in that it is a lot of money.
Yes.
For soft cost, that's a lot of, that is a pretty high soft cost. Particularly for a project that's sort of already in the works. I do get, the explanation that there's supervision, but engineering supervision of a project is not field supervision of a project. It is not someone standing out there the entire time that someone's working. They do come and do, review in the field of the work that's been done to ensure that it meets specifications and meets the plans, and they do answer questions and so on, but
Just to note on that, I do believe they will have somebody out, at least one staff member. The entire time, yeah.
This project, both these wells are so complicated, what's being installed, one of the reasons I recommended that Jacobs do the project management. This is a complex issue. This is not a project where you bring in a second or have someone else do this and they have to be on scene almost every day.
so this
Yeah.
so this dollar amount would be an engineer on site in an office trailer or something like that through the entire.
This is complex.
Okay.
And DEP is gonna be there constantly.
And I think this goes back to the that we made before, having more detailed explanation of what all this is for would be helpful. I have a concern, especially when talking about $500,000, of saying, okay, we will provide this when I don't want it to be seen as the blank check by the engineers. We have a little bit more money, so we can do X, Y, and Z. We need to be in a position, I would rather approve a little less, have them come back. But that's my opinion. But I would like to see more detail. This is a pretty staggering number beyond what we've already looked at spending. So.
If I may, I would also on the cost of the wells, I would like to get an update about the iBank financing and about other financing. I mean, it was recently, there were large settlements. Take many years, I appreciate, to get back to us, but understanding financial options for the township so that, if we are spending this money now, like what are the ways that we can get money back? Like there's been discussion about the iBank for like well over a couple of years now. And, I haven't seen anything there. The state of New Jersey got federal money. There's a lot of infrastructure money that has been allocated for these types of projects in other municipalities. So I'd really like to hear what we're doing. If it's, refundable, what we're spending now, that would be very helpful, in our evaluation of the money improving spending. That being said, I do want to point out that having project management on site for a very, very complex project where you are going to have a lot of regulator oversight does make a tremendous amount of sense. I personally don't know if $500,000 is reasonable or astronomical. So like having that additional information that some of my colleagues have asked for, I think is a reasonable ask as well. But I do also believe that having that on-site engineering support will be very beneficial to this township, and it'll save us in the long run, because having somebody there that can like troubleshoot and project manage, as opposed to then finding out that, we're down a road that's the wrong way later, it would be very helpful.
We'll try and get you some summaries of the weekly meetings with Jacobs. I know I consistently send you those minutes because it is complex, and now we have DEP as part of the meeting also because we're getting to the fine line.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of the federal money Jacobs is shepherding the applications into the iBank as maximum now, so we can get into the iBank, because as you indicated, a lot of federal money is coming down to the states, and through the states to the counties, and are being targeted to the eye banks.
Mhm.
So having everything in the eye bank gives us a better shot when, if relief comes in, that's really what everybody's been advertising. It will be relief through the eye banks of forgiveness of principals or interest, and we just don't exactly know yet. But that's the trail that is happening.
Okay.
We'll try and get you more information.
That would be
It
great.
seems like a lot, but in perspective of what the two wells are gonna cost.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So many figures in those.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll get you another update.
All right, moving on to the wastewater treatment plant assessment, $26,000. My main question on this one I would ask is, why do we consider this to be eligible for capitalization for bonding? Does this study have a useful life that exceeds the life of the financing for it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see what you're saying by that. I would say yes, probably because it's gonna hold through for a lot of these upgrades that are gonna be ongoing. But you know, really it's a detailed study and assessment of the plant, as we know, is absolutely necessary, so.
We know this is something that we've had this looked at a couple of times. That's my only real concern is, okay, are we certain that this is the last one of these before we actually start doing, capital projects at the plant?
They have these prior reports, which have been generated by, not McDonald, I think. So we're not duplicating, they're not duplicating the sort of written report, because then I would be upset. And we're going forward with a complete plan of what you may have to do.
Right.
And then you can make a decision. There's a number of options that they're looking at, as well as the full appraisal.
Okay. And is this going to include costing for budgeting purposes as well? Yes. Any other questions on this item? Any information requests, or should that one, are we okay with having them proceed to requesting that from us? Was it?
Yeah.
All fine with it? Okay, so that one, if you want to prepare something. Okay, amending chapter 5 administration of government, article 2, section 15, paragraph A of the code of the township. Which is regular meetings.
This is for introduction. I think we were pretty aligned in the last meeting.
Actually, the next couple of ordinances are all on just for your discussion to review, because we can't.
Session, that's fine.
Right.
These are all, like many of these you might even not.
We already discussed this.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I just want to bring up one additional point about the time, which I know we decided not to move. So I was on the phone with someone from Senator Carrada's office this week, and our reorganization meeting overlaps with Cedar Grove's. And so now that we're in the new 40th, if we stick with the 12 time, that's fine, but now we're making our state officials choose between both municipalities, because we're on the same cycle.
They should choose Verona all the time.
They should choose Verona all the time, but Cedar Grove got there first since they were already in the 40th. So like for this reorganization, I'm not sure what they're going to choose. So I just want to put that out there one more time, that if we eliminate the time in our ordinance, since we are touching this and we're making it more flexible for the location because of weather. If we make the time flexible, we could, be savvy with Cedar Grove and coordinate so that someone's at 11, another person's at 12, or someone's at 12, another person's at 1, so we can hope to get our elected officials at both. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'm open to striking the time, and that was one of the only elements of the ordinance that wasn't in the statute.
I would be open to do that, Councilman.
My only issue with changing, but not having the time in there, is that when you're setting this late and the people that may be sworn in are not sitting at the dais and can set the time, I always found that having it in the ordinance makes it very clear that you need to be available at this date at this time. Right, and that's something that's set. I'm open to changing it to a different time if we're all in agreement to that, so we don't overlap with some of the municipalities. But I still would actually like to see a set time in here, because it ensures that there's no concern about issues or politicking or anything.
Thoughts?
I mean, if we're worried about overlapping, then maybe we set a time. So that we don't overlap, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I remember we've had these meetings where we've just set the time, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, even though it was in there, we. Kind of just, you know, all of us were still sitting here, we haven't been thrown in jail yet.
You're gonna get your code violation notice.
Yeah, we're gonna have to answer to the new judge. So.
I mean, if we don't do noon on any day, do we decide now what time? The future is, do we do 10 o'clock?
I think 10 o'clock is great. And when I was on Washington Township, the Morris County towns did stagger times for the purpose so people could attend. And I think we were always first, and they went east from there. So I'm fine with 10 o'clock. And it'll be a little cooler. Because of where we're.
Madam Clerk, did you have a
I
thought?
was just thinking if I first fell on. Thinking about weekdays.
That's a valid point.
Yay.
Right.
I mean, school won't be an issue in July.
Right, but if we have people that are working at, you know, another job they can't get out of.
Especially if it's a Friday and someone doesn't want to break off or.
Right, I mean, I kind of think that that's where you have the flexibility that you might do that in the evening that year, you know,
Yeah.
that's. If it has to be on July 1st, I don't think that you can set a time for that reason.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, yeah, so maybe we do just strike the time.
Strike the time and then.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna do that, then we need to put something in that says we're gonna establish the date or we have the date, but we're gonna establish the time by X date. You have to give people notice of when this meeting is gonna be, right? You can't spring upon people, and that should be decided before the election.
Could establish 2 times also, 10 o'clock on the weekends, 5 PM on weekdays.
That's fine with me as well.
Can I hear 6?
6 is fine.
Or just pick one time and don't say AM or PM, 10 o'clock.
Midnight
That's an
meeting.
extraordinary lawyerly way.
12:01 AM is another good option.
I would be.
We don't have any problems in this right now. Any of those, but we just have to make sure that people know by the time. Right, they're running state.
I mean, is that what we want to do, is one time for weekends and one time for weekdays?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. All right.
Right now.
10 o'clock and 5 o'clock, is that
What
good?
time?
10 o'clock and 6.
I would prefer 6.
That's what I.
6 in the morning?
We'll just leave it 6 and you can
We won't have
decide.
to worry about any interactions with school if it was 6 o'clock.
All right. Okay, parking within 4 feet of a driveway. There's been a lot of interesting,
Yeah.
I had a couple comments on this from the public, and I thank them for it. The first one is people were asking if they can park within 4 feet of their own driveway. If there could be an exemption for that if you wanted to park within 4 feet of your own driveway, because you're the one inconvenienced by it, could we have an exemption where you could do that?
I guess the question is as to the enforceability of that, if a police officer is supposed to look up the registered address of the vehicle.
Well, they have to in order to write the
Yes.
ticket.
Would it have to be yours or could a guest do it?
Right.
Well, that's the issue, right? The only enforceability would be your own vehicle.
The other issue you have is I had a municipal court case here in this room where someone was blocking their own driveway. And there was no exemption, but one of the arguments that I developed was the fact that driveways aren't just for cars, it's also for access for handicapped individuals and egress and ingress for the sidewalks. The judge most certainly brought that argument.
Well done.
Yes.
I had a question asked about Bloomfield Avenue. Because we have all of the parking already marked out, the parking spots, so does this change? Because it does say 4 feet within residential or commercial.
It actually says almost marked, I believe.
Correct. There is thing about the stalls. If there are marked stalls, you have to park with.
Yes, but do we have to change the stall markings once we pass this? Because some of the stalls go within 4 feet.
I would say that a marked stall would take precedence, regardless of whether it's 4 feet.
Is that how it's written?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people expressed concerns about essentially like loss of parking as a result of this. Some folks say that's better because you get better visibility. Some folks say that could create problems on some streets. So just in terms of practicality, I mean, I've seen that is a valid concern. Places where you might have been able to park 2 cars before, you would only be able to park 1 now.
Or even 1.
Right.
Like I walked this morning and I was looking at something. If you put 4 foot between on each side of a driveway in front of a house, there were a couple spots you have to eliminate.
That was actually one of the reasons why I originally had this at, I think, 5 or 6 feet. It was higher than 4, but it was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And the chief actually did an analysis with, I think Steve, but maybe some other people. And said 4 was more appropriate because there were less of those spots they could lose.
Yeah. And I suppose the other answer to that is that if it does create a hardship, then the township could actually mark non-meter, just mark some spots on the ground. If it flat out didn't make sense at one particular location.
You could at one particular location paint a stall, for instance, that's what you're saying.
Right, yeah. If that's the thing is I don't know that we're gonna come up with the perfect, we need to come up with a little bit of a way for dealing with edge cases here without, trying to legislate this out of existence.
Wasn't this going to be though administered, so around the schools, I think the police chief said they would be doing enforcement starting with warnings, because that's where we have a lot of issues. But in terms of other residential areas around town, it's really up to the homeowner, right, Paul?
I think it will be. I think it will be. If someone's paying and you don't mind it, then fine, but.
Well, I mean, the police, if they see a violation, are supposed to address it. I mean, the warnings.
I can see particularly by the park, they come on the large days to make sure fire hydrants aren't blocked.
Yeah,
and things like
that's a
that.
good point. The park is another problem area. Yeah.
I mean, we can't simply, we have to assume that our ordinances are going to be diligently enforced and write them the way that we want them to without, and yes, the police have discretion as to a lot of things, but if we would be in our right to write up a violation if it was seen without, having to issue a warning after an initial period. So do we want that, or do we want to try and craft legislation differently?
Does with 3 feet make a difference? I'm thinking a foot on each side could open. The question is if you change the distance to allow for more parking, does that minimize the effect of the legislative intent, which is to have space and visibility, right? So, that seems to really be the issue. If you take I haven't gone outside of the meter stick and to take a look at this, I'm happy to. But I think that's really kind of the question. Can we look at some other ordinances from other towns on this?
Well, really, they are just measurement ordinances.
Okay.
One of the issues that you're always gonna have, and one of the reasons why you don't want to get there 1 or 2 feet, is where does the measurement start? So you usually have in many areas, I think it's everything, we have the Belgian block.
Right.
And they start to raise or whatever. So where does that, within those 3 or 4 blocks as it goes up, your curve cut starts? Where do you start the measurement? So you already have like a foot, I'll call it discretion for the officer to use. So you can kind of be in that 2 to 3 feet area if we're doing 4 feet, maybe 3 feet, because where do you pull the ruler out? So the object is to give a distance where the officer has some discretion on where you start the measure, we're not painting everywhere. And then, but you still allow the homeowner to get the heck out of their driveway in a safe manner so they can see.
I think it's something we absolutely need to do. I had someone back into being nothing because of this exact issue yesterday. So it's one of those things I'd rather avoid after someone backed into me on Saturday. So little things would be. I think it's important. And I'm fine. We may have some kind of thing. The reality of it is we can always change the legislation.
Yeah.
As well, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think that if you set it down to 2 feet, you're gonna basically make it, meaningless.
Yeah.
You're not gonna change the situation from where it is now. And 5 feet, I think this is supposed to be a happy medium. It seems 4 feet seems to make sense to me, especially if like I said, if we have a problem where someone says, no, we really do need this parking back on this street, and the police chief looks at the street, says it's okay, and we need to mark some hash marks for some spots to solve the problem.
Or exempt that section.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can do that.
There's no ways to fix the problem through issues.
So, so are we okay with this moving forward? Okay, display of flags and municipal building color lighting. We have
A
any
long time to goes dated order, by the way.
I was impressed.
Yeah, it is a very comprehensive
Thanks,
list.
I appreciate it. So, thank you.
Okay, did we have any concerns on anything within this ordinance at this point? Hearing none. Anyone, everyone okay with that moving forward? All right. Then we have a large list of appointments. I'm not going to read all of the individual members, but Board of Adjustment, Green Team, Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee, Parks and Rec Advisory, Planning Board, Rent Control Board, and Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee. What is the reasoning for not having the term expiration dates on the IAC?
The new codified multiple ordinance
Yes. These are
does ask that we do one, stagger the years so not everybody expires
right. Okay.
at the same time, but
How long are the terms?
well, the ordinance reads 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. And stagger the minimum at the same time.
You have your, we're gonna pull names out of that.
Well, I'm just looking to make sure that,
I'm pulling it up.
thank you.
I think that's a fair way of doing it.
I thought I had it in one of the emails
Hold on, hold on.
on the sheet itself. 18-33A. Oh, oops.
Yeah, so you're correct. So the term of the first year shall be distributed evenly over 3 years after their appointment, so that not more than 3 adult public members shall expire in any 1 year. So it's 1, 2, and 3 years. You have 9 members spread evenly over the 3 years. So 3 will be 1 year, 3 will be 2 years, 3 will be 3 years, and then that rotation will start immediately. And you want to choose that out of the hat or just pick people, that's up to you.
I'm set, I'm ready.
I support choosing out of the coffee cup.
I have the 9 names folded in the coffee cup. It's county coffee.
All right.
Are you gonna come up?
all the names.
There's your clerk. So
So what are we pulling first, the 3-year terms? Or the
We need to
1-year
pull
term?
out of the hat to figure out who, no, I think we should do 3 years, 3 2 years, 3 1 year.
All right. So-
All right.
All right. So these
Well,
are
there's
first.
9 people here, including our audience members, so everyone gets to pick one.
All right,
Oh, that's.
Ready, Jen?
Can be on this
This is the
is
most
It's
exciting.
the mayor's last meeting, so he gets a big first.
I think Steve should pick them.
I really thought that the municipal clerk was gonna pick them all, but it's so exciting.
So this.
I did the ballot drawing, I
This
had
is real
to.
democracy.
It's usually for the ballot drawing, we have like a whoever's the youngest person in the audience gets it.
All right,
It's like a gift.
this will
Let's
be
not
3 years.
First 3 or 3 year term.
What do we do?
Just
Okay.
Pick one.
Mayor.
Draw-
Come on, let the
pick
mayor.
one, draw audience.
Yeah, let the mayor pick first.
All right, this is for a 3-year term.
This,
First 3 or 3 year
First
term.
3-year
wait,
term.
wait, this person you pick will have a 3-year term.
A 3-year term.
The first 3.
Yeah, we'll do, well, the first 3 are gonna be 3s, then we'll go 2s, then we'll
Okay,
do
we'll be here till.
Roxana Torado.
3-year
Okay.
term,
All right.
pass it on.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Oh, Lynn.
Thank you.
Okay, mine for me?
To you.
We can just keep.
9.
This is for a 3-year term.
What do you got?
This is for a 3-year term. Okay, Kristen Dunleavy.
Kristen Dunleavy.
Woo-hoo.
All right.
I'll let me know when I can pick.
Yeah.
Go.
It's the last 3 year.
The last of 3 years is Michelle Drouet.
Congratulations, Michelle. All right, this is for 2 years.
Here,
2-year term.
Councilman, you're holding us up. 2 year.
Wesley Rodriguez.
All right.
All right,
2 years.
Rita Chevalier.
2-year, Rita. Joe.
Yeah.
I guess technically this is the last choice, right? Because everyone else is winning.
That's true.
Oh,
Thank you.
well, you
Power
should-
production.
Yeah, why is one warm and the rest are cold?
That's weird.
John.
Baja.
Okay,
All right.
All right.
Carla, thank you. Carla, Wendy,
Sean, Kathleen, or one.
Good luck.
Kathleen, and Michelle.
All right, would somebody like to, do we, motion and?
So
All right, so this is for all of the
Every
appointments.
single one.
All right,
Second.
all right, moved by, Councilman Pembroke, seconded by Mac.
I just have one council comment on this.
Yes,
Mr. Neal, being that you are going to be a citizen very soon, I would like your choice of which committees you will be serving on as a resident of the Township of Verona. Please have them by your goodbye party.
Have the list of
Putting
openings
on
for you.
recognition.
you notice he strategically placed plural in his sentence as well. So, all in favor of the appointments? Aye. Aye. Thank you to all of the people that are willing to.
I really do want to echo that and just say thank you to all of these people. This is tremendous. I know that we do have some open positions and I look forward to the PIO advertising some of that.
Yes, this is what makes a lot of this town run.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just for a reminder to keep the suspense going, at the reorg meeting, we will have the council representatives for each committee set as well.
Bring your coffee back. So.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question regarding the council liaisons. We the flood control board, that wasn't part of the emails. I know that there's been some confusion about the status of that flood control board. If I could get some clarity either from the administration, because there are slots.
Right. We'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good point. All right, moving on to general public comment. Brooke, do you have the public comment?
Yeah, I can. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any topic? If you're attending via Zoom, please raise your virtual hand, making so by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor, calling by phone, press *9. If you're attending in person, you may approach the lectern. When you are advised you're unmuted, please stay. If you could give your address, these meetings will not be, names will not be redacted. Addresses will not be redacted, and it will be posted on the township's YouTube channel. Again, you have 4 minutes to address the council.
Anyone in the room? Please.
Hi, good evening. I'm Liz Giblin, 39 Howard Street. I actually have a question about that parking ordinance. Will you be discussing that? I see it's new, unfinished. Is that going to be discussed at the next meeting?
Is that your only?
No, it's not. No, that's my only question, really.
Please don't run through that in your comments and we'll answer everything at once. We don't use.
Okay, great. Because I just don't know the background and I'm not sure how that would affect me because we use the street to park just because we have a singular driveway. So I wasn't even aware that it was on the agenda. So I'd just like to understand the genesis of the discussion really and how it would affect, because I love living on Howard Street and we have baseball games there all the time. It's actually, I don't really mind that people park there. And I've become really good at backing out when there's like 3 or 4 cars around. So I'm just kind of wondering where that all came from. And you don't have to give me a detailed response. If I should listen next month, I'll do that. My primary reason for coming this evening is that I know you will be doing the reorganization on Saturday, as you often do on July 1st. And I also want to thank all of you. I know there's a lot of time and effort that you put into making decisions for our town. And I also know it's a thankless job. So thank you for all of that. I also want to speak on behalf of Deputy Mayor McGrath. I worked with her, as many of you know, I was the library board president for 10 years. Going back to 2014, Christine was an integral part of creating our strategic plan at the library. She was not on the council then, she was a citizen. She has proven herself as a leader, as a contributor, as a collaborator. And I know there's so much that goes on in town and among you all on the council that you work very hard. I would just ask that you really think about when you're deciding who will be the mayor. This is her second term on the council. Some of you have already served as mayor. Some of you are seated here in your first term. She's proven herself. The last 2 elections, she had the highest vote count. She will represent our town well, and I would just ask that you would consider that very seriously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll answer your questions in just one moment. We'll just get through the rest of public comment.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a couple of people in Zoom. We have our first commenter.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
If we can, just your name and your city only.
Excellent. Hi, Katie McClure, Verona, New Jersey. I apologize about my technological challenges earlier. My Verona middle school student would be very unhappy with me, or is unhappy with me, that I didn't ask for his help so that you could hear me sooner. I will also say that I am one of those residents who is really happy with the prompt and effective response by Mr. Molinaro and other members of DPW to get our storm drains working. That's been a, super help in the past few days and weeks. But I'm calling in tonight because there is so much importance in transparency and critical leadership issues in town. My resume does not come close to matching the initial caller who called earlier, but I am familiar with gender discrimination in the community. And we are a small town in a very big and congested yet small state where leadership is critically important. And for a public council, or for the public and council who attend the July 1 organization meeting, I think it's important for people to understand when they come to that meeting, when and how our decisions are made. What are the voters and constituents to understand about the transparency in that process? In other words, how will we see the will of the voters implemented in those decisions? There's no public discussion, and we would be naive to think that there was no discussion beforehand. To the extent that the will of the voters is not implemented, in other words, if there's a departure from history and that the top vote getter and second term councilwoman deputy mayor is not selected mayor, what are we to understand about our representation in government by that decision? Should we consider a different form of government where we elect a mayor directly? That is my first question. And my second question is, since the June 12th meeting of the council, could you please update us on the conversations that have occurred? The appointment of the mayor and deputy mayor has been discussed in anticipation of the July 1 reorganization meeting. Thank you.
Then we have one more commenter.
Good evening, Jessica Pearson, Verona, New Jersey. I wanted to just touch on a couple of items. As chair of the planning board at our last meeting and at your last meeting, there was some good discussion on the removal of trees from some of the streets that had some updates done. It came up in new business at our last planning board meeting, and there's obviously, we shared concern with the Shade Tree Commission. And I have had some discussions with the new chair of the Shade Tree Commission, and there is shared concern about the trees coming down without a full press review. Should it come to the planning board for review, for replacement? And I definitely think the shade tree should have more say on this. And at the last council meeting, there was a brief discussion that, yeah, we could and we should do better, and we should probably write down some particulars that would apply to this sort of situation where we're doing upgrades on our streets and some of these old mature trees should come down. And I just want to point out that in our ordinance, in our current ordinance, the township and the municipality and the state and the utilities are exempt from the permit application, but they are not exempt from clear cutting, from tree replacement or mitigation. And so when it comes to planning these things, I think we really need a greater discussion on what's going to happen at the end of this project to clean it up, and a better review availability made to either the planning board and most definitely to the Shade Tree Commission. And I'm hoping that perhaps you guys could bring this to our township attorney and maybe have a secondary amendment made to the tree ordinance to kind of clean that up. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We have I don't see any news, no one new. Okay, I will now close public comment. I'll just offer up a comment on the genesis of the parking ordinance. We actually had a member of the public who came and spoke to us. This was a problem for him, in particular, apparently on his street. There were a lot of people that were rather habitually parking very close to a driveway, and we started getting into this discussion and realized that this is a very common regulation in a lot of municipalities, just to enhance sight lines around driveways when you're getting in and out of a driveway. And it's a lot of the surrounding towns have it. We agreed that it was something that generally made sense and was just sort of a hole in our set of ordinances. And we felt that it was appropriate to move forward with implementing in the town. We did ask the township administration to have an internal discussion with the police department in particular, to make recommendations as to whether or not they thought it was appropriate or inappropriate for Verona. And if so, what spacing they would recommend. That's where the 4 feet came from. And other than that, we're just having ongoing discussions. Since this is a new business, it actually hasn't been brought up for even formal introduction yet. So I would say that it is likely at this point in time that it'll be brought up for introduction on first reading in the new council term, and then would go into a public hearing at its second reading if it moves forward. So at this point, this is just simply a discussion, and always emails if there are specific situations or things like that. Please reach out to us. It would be nice to get this one right. This may be an ordinance where we have to tweak in the future, but I do think that we kind of are of the opinion that this couldn't really hurt to at least see where this goes. And it does make some sense given our concerns about people being able to get in and out of driveways safely. I'll make sort of my own individual comments again on the I've said a number of times on the mayoral selection. The one thing I will say is that if you send me an email, if you want to, you'll get a detailed response from me, or if you want to have a phone call, I'll have a phone call. I have positive reasons for some of my choices, and I have challenges for some of my other choices. And I simply don't want to, just out of politeness, I prefer to keep some of these things to one-on-one conversation with people. So that's my promise. If you reach out to me, whatever you prefer, you want an email response or you want to have a conversation with me, you will get that. As far as the ask from Ms. McClure as to what additional deliberations have gone on, since this is traditionally a process that is discussed amongst the council members, I'm not going to go into that. Other than that, my fellow council members are welcome to reach out to me at any point in time if they ever want to have any additional discussions. So, is there anyone else? And to Ms. Pearson, thank you for your comments. That's probably something that should go into new business of discussion of tree removals with relationship to roadway projects. But I'll let if anyone else on the council wants to speak up, please feel free. Councilwoman.
With regard to the park. I think our discussion as well as the public comment, reveals a need for us to maybe make a push for more public engagement on that one and opportunity for our new. So, because I do think that a number of residents have already raised some interesting concerns. So maybe if we put that out there, we could get more robust discussion on it. I mean, because I think the intent is good. but there are some practical realities that we may not have even thought of. So that's just one recommendation. With regard to deliberations, I stated at the last meeting and in response that nobody has reached out to me, and I'm
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to move into executive session. Will we need to take any official action thereafter?
Yeah.
No, okay, then we will adjourn immediately thereafter.